the Evolution Security Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Brian here. I'm joined by Aaron as usual. How you doing, Aaron?
Man, I'm doing great.
And we've got a special guest.
We sure do.
Mr. Eric Davis is physically in the country. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, guys. And seeing your guys' face, even though I got to see it when I was deployed, being home is surreal. And so, yeah, man, guys, it's great to be here. And of course, I've been home for, a little while now. We just haven't talked about it on the show. But it's wonderful to be home. For the audience out there, some folks may have picked up on the fact that either I haven't been shooting the live fire drills and a few other kind of technical things and maybe you guys didn't. If you guys didn't, then that's kind of cool. So we did our job. But I've been over in Iraq for 6 months, and it is wonderful to be home. So, and glad to be hanging out with you guys.
Welcome home, man.
Yeah.
Welcome home. And we always talk about our drills and our dry fire, and Eric's been doing all of these drills, and he's been doing them on a timer, but he's been doing them dry fire with a cert gun. And interesting thing happened out at the homestead. He came over and we shot on my range, and we were doing some time drills. His very first live fire drill in approximately 7 months, he outshot me. Now, Eric has been doing about, 100 times more dry fire than me for the past 7 months. And all that is proof that those skills do not perish if you practice. And you do not have to shoot live ammo to practice, which for some people is a bit of an issue right now, getting a hold of ammo. Keep shooting your gun. Just do it without bullets, man. It is so cool. And, we talked about that book by Ben Stoker, and Aaron is reading it right now, and he's sending us little clips every day. And it's, man, dry fire is just huge. And Eric proved it in real life.
Well, Brian, I appreciate those kind words very much so. But I will tell you this. I want to make sure the audience knows that I think you might have remembered me saying, I was like, bro, you've been improving, man. And you absolutely have been. So that was a man. What a really cool homecoming.
It was cool.
Getting to go live fire. And it was kind of cool to be able to, because we shot the FBI 2019 qual. And that was kind of a cool kickoff, and it was wonderful to shoot with you, brother. So we just need to have Aaron here soon, or we go see Aaron. So either one.
I'm rooting for you guys to come here. Nice. We can ride horses and dodge tumbleweeds. But hey, nice. I want to double down on that Ben Stoker book. Eric, you were talking about it, I believe, while you were in Iraq.
Yes.
And I got it, and it sat in my pile of books for a month or so, and I finally dug it out because I think we were talking about it over some texts, and man, I am barely into it and have already had some epiphanies and learned a few things, and especially today on grip and trigger pull, which, those fundamentals, you can never stop really focusing on those. Hopefully it gets more ingrained and malinated, but at the same time, you start keying in on those really tiny details when you're trying to improve. So, so I was having a blast with that, guys. So, yeah, thanks for running that through first, Eric, and getting me on it.
Absolutely, man. It is a phenomenal book, and I think I had mentioned Annette Evans' book a while back too. These two books, Dry Fire Reloaded by Ben Stoger, and Annette Evans' book, Dry Fire Primer. I think I have that right. Goodness, Annette, if I had that wrong, I don't have it sitting in front of me. But two phenomenal books that will take our audience members to the next level. So you guys go out there and get them.
Yeah,
sure.
and it just has to be stressed that good shooters get great dry firing. There is no, of course, someone can get decent with live fire, but as Ben said in his book, he's done all kinds of studies on his students, ones that only do live fire and ones that only do dry fire, but an equal or not even equal, but actually higher level of ratio of dry fire to live fire, he says that gets the best results. So if people are not dry firing, and sometimes it's hard to get motivated to do it, but man, that's where you get good if you want to get good. We're not talking about trying to be master class or distinguished master, but hey, what about just bumping up a little bit in your classes in competition if you're in competition? So yeah, great stuff. You guys want to get on to some business?
Sure. So I think I'll kick it off. I'll point out our Origin sponsor. Still doing some great stuff. They just released a new Discipline Go in the can, Sour Apple Sniper, and I've got some on order. Should be here later this week. I'll get you a couple cans, Eric. I might even ship you a couple there, Aaron.
Oh man, I'd love it.
Yeah, no, it's good, and I just got to say they make wonderful products, man. U.S. made, U.S. workforce, U.S. shipping, all that stuff, man. There's a lot of good companies out there, but these guys are doing it here at home, and that is one of the reasons we love to support them. And I use their protein powder every morning, and I take their sleep supplements every night. So no joke. And that's why we have them on here, because it's a product that we believe in and stand behind. So you can find them at originmain.com and enter the code EVOSEC at checkout for 10% off. What do you got, Eric?
Man, that's great. I love my Origin gis. They're a luxury for sure. And I've honestly been able to use my gis recently, so I've been enjoying
nice.
that. Now, moving on to our next sponsor, Tenacor. Tenacor, again, is making some of the most awesome holsters. You know, all of us in the EvoSec crew use the Velo 4, and that's kind of what I was gonna hit on. My Velo 4 has been around the world now, literally, and that was my companion in my dry fire sessions, and I was so glad to have it there with me. And Jeff and his crew over at Tenacor support us, so you guys go out there and support them. Go to tenacor.com and enter EvoSec10 at checkout for 10% off. Go out there and grab some gear.
Nice. Well, now I'm going to shamelessly beg for you to give us some reviews. We haven't asked for this for a while, and we want to keep it rolling. Reviews keep us current, keep us popping up in the search fields, and it lets other people know what you guys think. We're currently 5-star rated. We want to stay 5-star rated. Go give us a review. We love just the tap with stars and enter, but we like people writing some kind words even better. This was recently written by Snake Charmer 2002. You probably know who you are. He says, "Thanks for putting out great material week after week from world-renowned professionals. The information really helps to fill in the gaps for those elusive questions that don't get talked about too heavily or in detail during training environments, mainly due to time constraints. Keep up the great work." Thank you for the kind comments. We love it. We're glad that you're getting something out of it. That's why we do it, and we want to continue to do it. And you giving us a positive feedback and writing a review really helps us out. So, again, just reaching out to you guys. If you feel like you're getting something out of the show, just take a minute and share that with everyone else. So, anyhow.
Hey, Brian, speaking of reviews, I just wanted to go ahead and say it was so interesting. I was on my way back from Colorado with my family, and I'm listening to the American Warrior Society. And then all of a sudden, I hear Rich talking about a review, and he's like, yeah, and this is a cool one. This is from our friends over at Evolution Security Podcast. And I really had just happened to write a review for them because they had a really excellent show on instructor development. And I just had to say something about it because their knowledge and experience in teaching was apparent in how they articulated everything. And I just wanted to make sure I let them know it. But so, man, it was really cool to have a shout out from those guys. They too have supported us, and we really appreciate it. So make sure that you guys listen to their show because, in my opinion, it is the gold standard. So, and we love listening to them, and they're the ones that got me into podcasts. So, and I just want to say, hey, listen to Rich Brown. He was on our episode number 7. And then Mike Seaclander, he was on episode 14. So go back and listen to those great episodes.
Yep. Killer guys, killer material.
Yep. Wonderful guys, man. And they do support us. It's really incredible having the support from those guys. So awesome. And guys, real quick, I do have to make a quick correction. We got our codes backwards. Origin is EvoSec 10 and Tenacore is EvoSec. So you guys out there, if you're getting product, just make sure you use those codes.
Well, hey guys, we got speaking of fans of the podcast, we got a really cool guest tonight that we met because he got turned on to our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And incidentally, he's a guy we like to emulate. So how cool to have his support and man, what a cool opportunity to have him on the show.
Yeah, neat way to hook up, and it was really cool to spend some time with him and get to know him a little bit better and find out what he's about. So we've got Kato Murakami, guy that we've gotten to know a little bit here. Kind of met him through the social media channels and have had some more direct contact with him. But let's give it a listen. Hey everybody, we've got a great guest this week. We've got Mr. Kato Murakami. Hello, how you doing, Kato?
What's going on, guys?
Hey, glad you're here. And of course, this is Brian. I'm joined by Eric and Aaron as usual. You guys, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Good to have you on the show, Kato. Good to be with you, Brian and Aaron, as always.
Yep, good to be here, guys.
Nice. Well, Kato, the first thing that we usually do here is if you want to just give us, take a couple minutes and give us a little bit of a bio about yourself, where you started your path and how it got you to where you are now, and take as much depth as you want. But, we all kind of follow you on Facebook and have a pretty good idea of what you're about and the things that you're into, but we want to go ahead and bring our listeners up to speed. So give us a shakedown.
All right. So I really hate talking about myself, but...
Good. You get to grow here. You get to grow.
Everything's a growth experience. So, born and raised in Chicago, still here. Boy, just had a normal kind of childhood. Went to school down just outside of Cabrini Green. Learned how to swear in the 3rd grade. High school, a little bit of college. Decided I want to be a cop. And, 93 got hired on here in the Chicagoland area. And been a cop ever since. So 27 plus years. As far as my path, my martial path, it kind of started, as a kid, I was an avid martial artist, but avid, like watching stuff on TV and movies and stuff.
That's the best way to learn.
Right, exactly. My parents couldn't afford martial arts. So, I messed around with some friends here and there, little pro wrestling off the back of the couch, went to church with some guys who trained in judo and kendo and got beat up by them. And then I want to say it was the early 90s. I studied a little Aikido and, that really wasn't doing it for me. And, I just started working out and lifting weights. And it wasn't until 2000 when we found a jiu-jitsu gym and started training. So my path, at least for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, started in 2000. As far as integrating weapons, so I came out of the academy, and I could tell you I was probably one of the worst shooters, at least at our department. And our department had this culture of training culture already, which wasn't unheard of back then, but it's kind of unheard of. Not unheard of, but it's limited now. But we shot every month, and so I'd go down to the range, be nervous as hell, barely qualify, and probably a year into the working, I'm like, this has got to change. So I partnered up with another guy who was a range officer, and I worked really hard for that year. And I went from worst shooter in the department to best shooter in the department.
Nice.
Awesome.
Continuous training. So, probably how I melded the two together, it wasn't really me who melded the two together, but in 93, I remember being down on the range with the range master, and he was showing me this move where we would, smack this piece of paper, move backwards, speed rock, and shoot this piece of paper. And I just didn't get the drill. I was like, what's the threat here? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. And obviously it was a deadly threat, right? Because, here I'm shooting this piece of paper. And, he kind of looked puzzled. And I go, well, if it's a gun, why would I be smacking this guy in the face and then trying to shoot him? I'm behind the curve here. So that doesn't make any sense. And I could tell he was getting a little angry. And then I said, well, and if it's a knife, I would go after the knife. I wouldn't speed rock backwards and shoot this guy. I go, it just doesn't make any sense. And I said, could you just explain it to me? And, it was pretty much, well, that's just what we do type of deal. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So it's been a 20-year journey. And, things finally changed at my agency just a handful of years ago. We were at the time, I think we were shooting 10 rounds at that distance. And I mentioned to the current range master, I said, hey, like 50% of cops are killed between 0 and 5 feet. I go, we shoot 10 rounds at this range. I go, I think that's an issue. I think we should change that. And basically, that close quarter shooting that we all trained with Craig. I brought that into the department, and we've been doing that for the last few years.
Awesome.
So, man, I don't know what else to say about myself.
No, that's great, Kato. We definitely will even hit on a few other pieces of your bio there here just a bit, but we'll kind of move in a little bit different direction based on the current culture, and you being a veteran law enforcement officer. What is your thoughts on how the current attitude towards law enforcement has morphed into, frankly, a horrible attitude towards law enforcement? But I would say, I believe it's more in the media than anywhere else. But of course, we do have segments of society that seem to believe that we would be better off without law enforcement, which here on EvoSec, I think because you listen to the show, we're absolutely pro law enforcement. We absolutely believe that law enforcement is crucial to the civil society. And, it's just baffling to me that there would be this growth of defund the police. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Kind of studying a little bit of history, we've seen, the 60s and 70s and then again in the 90s, it seems to be pretty cyclical. So this isn't 100% surprising. I think I think there's a couple things. And one's on the public side, the civilian side, and the other side is the criminal justice system. So On the civilian side, we as law enforcement do a horrible, not just law enforcement, the criminal justice system do a horrible job educating our youth. And so, our youth doesn't really understand what we really do. They're fed through social media and through normal media, and that's clearly biased. So, we need to get back into educating our youth into our role as cops, how the judicial system works. And clearly right now it's broken. And then on the law enforcement side, I've been a trainer for almost 25 years. A lot of those years, we really didn't do a lot of stuff. We were handcuffed with, time and budget and excuses essentially. But, we're at a state now, at least our agency, we train hand to hand once a month. We shoot every month. We do scenario-based training quarterly. And I can tell you, we out-train most agencies in the Chicagoland area. But that's still not enough. Like I mentioned to Eric yesterday, one block might be wrestling. And that might be, that's a month block, but that's really just an hour, 2 hour, class. And so, think about anything that you've just done for 1 hour once a year. You're just not going to be proficient at it. And so, we need to train more. That's, even coming from our agency, I push our training. I push it, and not many, and I'm not taking credit for this myself because this can be done anywhere. And I'm just like proof of it. Training can be pushed from the bottom up. I'm a patrolman. I go out and handle calls just like any other patrolman. And I'm lucky that, I can influence training in our agency at a pretty high level. But yeah, we need to train more often. It needs to be, consistent and frequent, and it has to be extremely relevant.
Well, and if I can hit a follow up on that, Kato, I'd first like to say this, and I may have the statistic wrong. You can correct me, but I basically understand that law enforcement basically has a 99% success rate as far as the hundreds of thousands of interactions that police officers have with society on a daily basis, and yet less than 1% of the time there's a bad incident or a bad outcome. Yet you would believe, if at least by the media, kind of what I hit on earlier, is that hey, we got all of these police brutality cases and police officers making horrible decisions, so on and so forth, when that's just not really the case. However, we do know that in those bad outcomes, just like you said, better training would likely, fix a lot of that. Don't you believe?
Oh, this is 100%. So you hit on a topic there that, and I'm not really sure where I found this information, but Gordon Graham, he's the founder of Lexipol, which is kind of like the risk management of kind of modern law enforcement. A lot of agencies have moved to this Lexipol model, but he's talked about risk to frequency ratio. And, he's not really worried about the things that we do often, the frequent, the high frequency calls that we handle. We normally handle those without issues. It's the higher risk and low frequency calls that usually go awry, and especially the high risk, low frequency. And then inside that, it's like a chart. There's like 4 squares, and then in the one corner, it's high risk, low frequency, and then he's got discretionary time and then non-discretionary time. And he goes, your training should be in the you don't have time to think. And again, that's really where your training kicks in, when you don't have time to think. So, I like using that chart or his model with my guys. And anytime I'm talking to an outside agency, trying to consult with them, just to kind of focus the training on those issues, because that's really where we see the major issues in law enforcement, and where you see the lack of training come in, especially when you're in body contact. You maybe got one cuff on because you didn't try to control this suspect before you put the handcuffs on. And as you're putting that second cuff on, he decides he's going to resist. And then you're trying to deploy your taser from body contact or an arm's length out. Well, I can send you easily a dozen videos, right now, showing you that, the taser is not really effective at that distance. And I don't really know if there's anybody else out there talking about this, but most of the things that are on our bat belt are distance tools, right? Our pistol really works best with using our sights. Our taser, usually you want to get NMI, you want to be about 10 feet away. A baton, right? You probably want to be an arm to 2 arms length out, depending on the length of your baton. Pepper spray. I don't particularly like it when I'm in a polyester pylon and somebody decides to break out that pepper spray and I get doused with it. So, with the exception of your handcuffs, that's the body contact tool. But all that, in my opinion, comes back to lack of training in the tools and lack of training, any type of hand-to-hand, any knowledge of fighting.
Well, and we're all ECQC alum in the EvoSec crew. You're a multi-time ECQC alum yourself. I mean, how awesome would it be if we had departments that supported that training or that type of training on a regular basis? I mean, police officers would be much more prepared, don't you think?
Correct. I will say that we're a real lucky agency. We have the support of our admin, and pretty much from our command staff down, everybody does the training. So that's the kind of support that we have. The one thing I will say is risk management agencies come into play and have a really big influence on what we do and what we cannot do. They really handcuff us, and they really limit your ability to actually get good training. And again, I go back to, because of the culture we've set, and I steal this from Matt Larson, the culture demands that you know how to fight. And that's the culture at our department. And because of that, we actually don't rely on tools, and we really rarely ever get into fights. We usually take people down and control them right away. And again, that's something I brought in, a team tactic, and that team tactic has seen exceptional results.
Which the bad shoot in Dallas just recently, I mean, heck, if those two officers had jiu-jitsu and wrestling skills, that young gentleman would likely be alive, and we wouldn't see that as another bad outcome, unfortunately. At least that's my opinion.
You're talking about Atlanta?
Did I say that? Pardon me. Yes, absolutely. I misspoke. Atlanta. And even before I was going to ask that question, I thought of Atlanta, but I misspoke. But yes, absolutely, the incident in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that, one, you establish a culture. Two, you give your troops the necessary tactics, and I think a team tactic is extremely necessary. And it doesn't really matter the agency size. we're just under 50 officers, and everyone from admin down understands and knows how to perform the 2-officer takedown, the 2-officer control and arrest. It is like clockwork, and if you could do it at a 50-man agency, you could do it at a 1,000-man agency. That's, it's just a matter of putting in the time, putting in the reps, reinforcing it through video, and even just like quick, daily updates, daily, training.
Right on. Hey, and I just got a quick follow-up. I don't want to beat this. We kind of probably are going to abandon it here pretty quick because it puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But with all of the negative media stuff, you being an officer in the street, do you feel like the public's got your back in general, and that it really is a group of people that are like a select group of people that are trying to make this movement? Or do you feel that there's a strong undercurrent there in the field?
Yeah, I could tell you personally from my personal experience, the public has our back. It is a small minority that is making all this noise, and they're making a lot of noise. They're doing a really good job at it. I think they're well funded, they're well organized, and they're extremely loud.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that, because that's how I feel too, and I think that's a lot of how things are in this nation right now. If you look at your television and listen to what it tells you versus walking outside and talking to your neighbor, they're very different things. So no, I'm glad to hear that, and I think that's that way here too. I think there's we've even this little sleepy town of Olympia I live in, we've had some massive damage to public buildings and stuff, and some people beat up, and it's a handful of bad actors making a really big appearance. So I'm glad to hear that that's true there too. So, but we're gonna move on to jiu-jitsu. We'll talk about that for a minute. So when you said you've been doing that since about 2000, you said?
Correct. Yeah.
And did you walk into a gym and decide to do that, or was there somebody referred you, or how did that start at your first gym?
All right. So let me back up real quick. I was in grade school. I heard of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I want to say it was like 7th grade. I think I maybe saw it in the back of a magazine or something like that. I told a bunch of guys, I'm like, someday I'm going to train this Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And so fast forward, obviously, I saw the UFC in '93. I was actually watching Pride right before that and some Shuto. But nonetheless, fast forward to about 2000, a buddy of mine, actually the range officer who helped me get better in shooting, said, "Hey, Kato, a bunch of us are going to go up to this new school that opened up just in the western suburbs." And he said, "You interested?" I go, "Hell yeah, sign me up." So there was about 6 of us from my agency who signed up, and we trained up there. Well, so for a solid year, all of us trained, and then they started dropping off. I stayed on for another year, and then he closed down after 2 years. So 2001, 2002. I was kind of like, man, what am I going to do? A bunch of us were still kind of training at work on some mats. It was kind of like after work. We also meet at my buddy's garage, kind of, do some dirty grappling in the garage.
Nice.
Yeah, we would do some sparring too, some striking, and that always got ugly.
It does. It always does.
and I was always the smallest guy, so everybody had the reach on me. So yeah, that was really ugly. And then I don't remember what year it was, probably about 04, 05. I started commuting about an hour and a half way out in Crystal Lake to Jeff Kern's place. I did that for 6 months with both my kids, and that was just, I couldn't do it anymore. It was an hour and a half drive with both kids, and then an hour drive home, and both my kids were under 5. So, yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. And well, fast forward to 2008. I happened to be on the underground MMA.TV for the OGs guy, and I found out that Newbury was moving from Evanston to Skokie, and I'm like, holy crap! So January 2008, strolled in, met Mark, signed up. I've been training with them ever since.
Awesome. That's cool that you stuck with it like that, and that you did the one-on-one stuff. That's actually very cool. Even like you say, it's kind of dirty grappling. I know I know a bit about that, so that's very cool though that you did that. So that's awesome. So have you been able to train currently? Are they open?
They are open. They've been open for about almost 3 months.
Awesome.
I haven't been in there consistently. I've been in there a couple times. Roll with a handful of the usual guys and get some pretty good rolls. And I'm not a spring chicken, so I need to get some healthy warm up rolls.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I'm jealous. Aaron gets to train too, and Eric's been doing some one-on-one stuff, but our state currently does not allow contact anything. So we're struggling out here. So we're a little concerned whether our gym will even reopen. So hopefully it does, but we have other options. So fortunately, I don't have to drive an hour and a half to go to another gym. We've got 3 in town. So that's brutal. But that's dedication, and good for you for doing that with your kids, man. That's very cool. Do your kids still train?
No, my daughter had zero interest in.
Gotcha. Right on.
My son trained he wrestled from 4 to 8, and then from 8 to 12 he trained MMA at Newbury. So,
oh, nice.
Supposedly still has a pretty mean triangle.
Very cool. Well, and Kato, just for a little bit of info for our audience out there, with the authority that you bring on jiu-jitsu. You're a black belt, correct?
Correct. Just received my black belt in November last year.
Man, that's awesome. That's certainly a goal of mine as well, but I got to get my purple belt first. So, but anyway, I'm thinking, well, sometime in my early 50s, maybe I'll get my black belt. That's the goal at least.
For me, like I told Mark during my belting ceremony, there were, I want to say, over 30 black belts at that day, and every belt for me has been a surprise. I kind of like it that way. I don't want to know that it's coming, and I don't train jiu-jitsu for the belt. I train just to get better, Absolutely. And I had joked one time with Mark, and I said, "Hey, if I could get a black belt, even posthumously, that would be awesome."
Well, you don't have to do it that way. We're thankful for that, buddy. Yeah. So, kind of segues us into the next discussion. I was pretty pumped recently to see that you started a new company, Rectitude Training, and you kind of also told me a kind of a cool story of what birthed that. Why don't you let us know a little bit about your new company?
So, there's a lot of issues going on in law enforcement. I have the luxury of all my experience at work, and if I don't have the opportunity to actually pass this on, then I'm bottling up for absolutely no reason, right? And so yesterday we talked about listening to the podcast. I'm a voracious podcast consumer, and I listen to all your shows, and it's just amazing that the continuity that everybody has. And the genesis for it was basically just to pass this on to cops. I want to keep, obviously I want to help the civilian defender, but the big thing was to aid cops, right? And
that's awesome.
The other thing, I heard a story on God, I'm drawing a blank. What podcast was that we were talking about?
Yeah, I believe it was Mike Seeklander and Rich Brown's AWS. It was a Mike Brown show, wasn't it?
Right. That's it. So, so I guess let's touch on the 6 degrees of separation there. I've never met Mike, but Mike's got a heavy influence on pretty much every guest you've had on the podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I happened to listen to Mike on AWS, and he told a story about one of his students, the father of his student, and how there was a home invasion, and he came out on the losing end of that home invasion, which royally sucks. And he was like, "Man, I have a lot to offer," and and I heard that, and that got me, So I went straight to Mark, my black belt, and I said, "Hey, I want to do this for our gym members, and you don't have to pay me, nothing. I don't care what time slot. I don't care if nobody shows up. I'll be there." And so for the last, I don't know, over a year, maybe 2 years, every Wednesday night, 8 to 9, but not during this COVID, but prior to that, I've been offering a weapons-based grappling class, and that's just been free to all our members, and anybody who wanted to try it out. But yeah, that's the combination of all that is the genesis of Rectitude. And, that word rectitude, I had sat on that. Well, I've been looking for a business name for months, and that name just kind of popped up in late July. I just, I love the meaning behind it. It's one of the, 7 or 8, whichever you follow the 7 or 8 virtues of the samurai. And, it's the primary one. It's behavior that's righteous. Right. And, that just really resonated with me. So that's kind of where the name came from, and kind of the long of the short why I started the business.
Nice.
Well, that's awesome. And frankly, the samurai culture is big in all of us. That's one of our favorite shows. Chris LeBlanc, that show was subtitled "The Way Is in Training." From Miyamoto Musashi, and we absolutely believe that very wholeheartedly.
So, Kato, one thing that we all 4 of us here have in common is that we have all attended ECQC, which, for those of you who don't know, is Extreme Close Quarters Concepts, and that's something that's put on by ShovWorks. Craig Douglas heading that up, of course, along with the collective, and also Rip William April. But the cool thing about that is I know that we all did virtually the same coursework. But what I have found is that people get astonishingly different personal results out of it. And I would relate this to your first experience doing that, or EWO, Edged Weapons Overview. What do you think was the biggest eye opener for you, and how did you feel coming out of it after having done it?
All right. So I'm not sure exactly what year it was when I found Craig on the internet. I want to say 2015, give or take. And I had spent a lot of time studying what he was putting out, and I had pretty much wrote the coursework for our Extreme Close Quarter Shooting program. I pretty much had it laid out. I just wanted to go to the class and double check to make sure I had my, I had dot the I's and cross the T's. And so I had a pretty good working knowledge of, close quarter fighting through jiu-jitsu, adding in the pistol work. But when I went, I actually didn't go with a duty rig. I actually went plain clothes, like a civilian. And so I was working with an appendix holster. And, I think in the 2-on-1, I got my gun snatched fairly quickly. And of course, I got 2 of the biggest guys Well, actually,
Craig loves to do that.
right. And, I got my gun snatched. Got shot a bunch of times. I don't even remember if I ever got it back, but at one point, I think at least the highlight in my own head was doing a get up with both of them on top of me. And that actually, I can't say it was impressive for me, but I remember being a blue belt being held down in side control by one guy who was my size. And I told myself that will never happen again. So nobody my size is going to hold me down. So for me to get up with both those guys, I was like, okay, I'm not sure if they're easing up on me, but nonetheless, I managed to get back up, stayed in the fight, and I don't really remember what the outcome was. As far as what I got out of it, I got a lot of Craig's teaching methodology. Now, going to one class one time is nowhere near going to get everything. So, anytime I have a chance to listen to him talk, see something he posts, I don't, like I was telling Eric, I think I've listened to every one of your podcasts more than once. So
kick ass.
There's never something that I either read once or watch once or just do once. It's just like training jiu-jitsu. In order to get good with the technique, you have to get reps, right? So I'm always studying either the teaching process, studying violence, studying, concepts, and trying to boil things down so that I can get it back to my troops. So that would probably be the biggest thing I got out of ECQC. I've also attended dominating the Entangled Fight with Cecil.
Very cool.
Right, and Paul. That was actually right before ECQC. And so I had that primer of all those reps going into ECQC. So that was pretty huge. And most of our vertical wrestling comes from that dominating Entangled Fight course.
You said that's both Cecil and Paul in the same course?
Paul Sharp, correct?
Paul Sharp and Larry Linneman.
Oh, okay,
nice.
cool.
Yeah, that's a powerhouse trio right there, man.
Yeah.
Right. That was an awesome class with the exception of the location. It was probably the size of some tiny little basement, and it was, I'm going to say, about 95 degrees in that little basement.
Ooh. Well, in Kato, I kind of got a funny comment, and Aaron and Brian can attest to this. Being that I've taken ECQC 7 times now, and so one of the things that I can almost guarantee I'll be picked first to go in the Evos, and he's going to look for the baddest dudes in the room every single time. Which I'm glad he does that, because I don't want to go in there and I want the experience to be real. So Craig's really good at that. So.
Oh yeah, I've witnessed it several times now, and it's just so funny. Eric, it's about how long it takes him.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Aaron, you want to ask him about his current training? What his training week looks like, man? You just hadn't been a whole lot of the questions, man.
Oh, I've just been being entertained here. This is fun, guys.
A lot of fun.
We all train. I think some of these guys train harder than me sometimes, but what is it that your weekly training and workouts look like right now, buddy?
All right, so I believe in doing something daily. So
get some.
I dry fire at the very least once a day. It might not be long. It might be 10 trigger pulls, but I pull that trigger every day. As far as that's as far as the gun. As far as my body, working out, I have some kettlebells here at home. I got a sandbag here. in a ruck. And so if I'm off, then I'm doing stuff at home. Again, something physical pretty much daily. If I'm working, I'm up at 3:55. I go into work early. I lift for an hour, and then, shower and get ready for work. So
up before the enemy, right?
Yep, up before the enemy. And, training outside of the physical and then the gun, jiu-jitsu pre-COVID is a couple times a week. What else? I'm a firm believer of video review, video breakdown. A lot of people will tell me, I don't like how you Monday morning quarterback. And, I don't really care what their opinion is. The only way to get better is through a harsh breakdown. And if you don't like it, you don't like to hear the truth, so be it.
Absolutely.
I try to read, but I got pretty bad ADD and I got a pretty bad astigmatism. So for me to read a page, I'm usually like starting to nod off, and then I have to read that page again. So I try to read on a regular basis too.
Well, podcasts are a good substitute, so I think you've got that down.
Yeah, again, between a video review, listening to podcasts, listening to books, I think during this COVID time, I think I've been through 5 or 6 audible books on top of all the podcasts and whatnot. So, I believe in doing something every day, and it doesn't matter. I got pretty bad arthritis in both my hands, my neck, my back, and this one ankle is really bugging me, but it doesn't matter. You got to get up and you got to move.
Kato, I've seen some of your workload, and it's impressive. And I mean, you certainly live the life of the folks that we like to aspire to, man. And again, your support of this show has been really cool as well. So we're honored to have you be a listener of our show for sure. And frankly, that's honestly why we do this is for this community, folks that want to train, folks that want to take care of their families, take care of themselves. So that's really cool. Well, Aaron, you wanna move this in your favorite section of the show, man?
Sure. I live in Oklahoma, and most people outside of Oklahoma, they assume that there are lots of horses and tumbleweeds here, right? I bet you and Brian both thought that or think that. So likewise, again, me being from a gun-friendly state, be on the outside of Chicago and Illinois. What is it like for the civilian there? I mean, you there on the ground, what's it really like for civilians when it comes to being able to, I know it's hard for a permit, and I mean, what's it like?
I only know this through a couple friends, and they don't seem to have any problems getting guns and ammo. I mean, obviously there's a slight shortage now, but,
yeah. But in
pre-COVID, there was no problems. I didn't see any guys having severe problems, either getting guns or getting in trouble because they had a gun or whatnot. So, I think there's a lot of horror stories out there, and I haven't experienced any, and none of my friends have. But I wouldn't say I'm the normal everyday civilian. So.
Yeah, well, but it sounds like there's no tumbleweeds there either.
No, we're a pretty urban area, and
I'm just using the mythology metaphor. So, okay, outside of all this training and bettering yourself every day, what else do you enjoy doing?
I really like hanging out with my kids, but they're both in college now, so there isn't a lot of time, between their schedule working and my schedule and working. But spending time with them I'll take any second I can get.
Great, yeah. Most of our buddies here are family guys, so that's good to hear. Now, okay, so here is the most important question of the show. what are your 3 top musicians or bands?
All right, so I'm not really big into music, but when I work out, I really like something upbeat, and it's kind of like Pavlov's dog. When you step into Mark's comp class, it's DMX, and you know you're going to go hard. So when at about 4:30 in the morning, I flip on DMX, and it's go time. So that's that's kind of the genre that gets me going through my workouts, and then post workout is usually some Hawaiian reggae. So J Boog, Common King, something along those lines, and a little bit of country here and there. But that's really what I like to listen to. And then sometimes at the gym, depending on who's playing music, you might get a little Thunderstruck, and I like a little AC/DC. And even during like some light rolling, some Hawaiian reggae is really good to flow to.
Well, Kato, if I can comment on that Hawaiian reggae, Brian can attest to this. Our instructor's from Hawaii, and so the normal music that plays at our gym is Hawaiian reggae. Yep. So I've grown fond of it because of that, because of obviously fond of my gym family. So,
well, guys,
cool.
Real quick, I just have to say, being the music fan that I am, and the fact that I am mainly a musician, I literally have never heard the 2 words Hawaiian and reggae put together. So I'm learning here. That's awesome.
Yeah, nice. It's some good tunes, great to train with, even a post training, you just want to, chill, kind of stretch out, relax, do some mobility drills, cool down. It's a great way to relax.
Awesome. Great answers. That's interesting, man.
Cool. Well, you know what? We really appreciate you coming on. And is there anything else you want to cover or discuss? I mean, we got a little time left if you want to, but that's up to you.
I think, and again, I steal this from Matt Larson, from the combatives aspect. The combatives expert is not getting motivated people to train. It's getting unmotivated people to train, right? And to me, that's culture. And that doesn't matter what the organization is. And that can be done from the bottom up, like I said earlier. Where it gets to be tricky is when you try to interject jiu-jitsu into a non-training culture, right? And it's just like, right, Brian, you like to CrossFit, right? What do jiu-jitsu guys and CrossFitters like to do? They like to talk about jiu-jitsu and CrossFit.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you know me, you probably know that I CrossFit jiu-jitsu. I'm guilty.
But you try to talk to somebody who's not interested in either and has zero interest, but should, they're going to have a sour, look on their face, and they're probably going to walk up the other way and be like, yeah, I can't do that. We have to create that culture, in the organization, especially in law enforcement. There has to be the demand that we know how to fight. We know how to control people. That is part of our job, whether you like it or not. That's what it is. And again, that is a small sliver. It is a small sliver of our training, but it actually should be the biggest, because it's the reason you're going to get killed or injured. It's the reason you're going to get, or at least arrested now, possibly convicted and sent to prison. So why wouldn't we make that the largest portion of our training? But society wants us to work on verbal de-escalation, which is what we've been doing since the dawn of time in law enforcement. They want us to be proficient in our tasers and in our law. Obviously, we got to be updated in our law. we got yearly hazmat training. We got yearly computer training. I mean, there is so much training that we do have, and I'm all for it. But the focus needs to be on use of force. That's, to me, the bottom line. It's hands down the most important.
Well, Kato, if I can interject on a few comments that you made, and maybe it's just my maturity, maybe it's our maturity. I guess all of us would likely agree. Jiu-Jitsu in and of itself, or grappling, combatives itself, I mean, what you learn simply from being stuck in somebody's side control, can't breathe, can't escape, what you learn from actually getting out from underneath another person, nearly sometimes, I mean, I think all of us will agree, maybe it's been a long time since you've been able to really roll hard, and you're tired as hell, and sometimes you feel like tapping because somebody's crushing your the air out of you, but you get out of it, and the mental gain that you get from even just that incident itself, rolling. I mean, it amazes me that others, and it's just a small percentage of society that sees the value of that. It would be awesome if we could change the culture to where they realize that just even rolling from time to time with a skilled practitioner is going to make your mind that much stronger,
I think you got a ghost behind you. That door just opened up. That was pretty freaky.
No, I think he's talking about my son who's going to get a smack.
I thought it was me.
I was like, hey, that door's opening. Anyways, so you just kind of jogged my memory here. So I want to say it was probably about 5 years ago. I kind of was pondering our jiu-jitsu program. And, I was like, man, we got guys here who've been doing our jiu-jitsu program for like 10 years, and they couldn't get up to save their lives. And I'm like, it's not the techniques. It's the teaching methodology. It's our process. And so I said, okay, hey, you know what? We're gonna shake things up a little bit. And I don't remember the exact gauntlet. It was 1 minute on the bottom of side control, 1 minute on the top of side control, 1 minute on the bottom of mount, 1 minute on the top of mount, and then 1 minute, I believe, in closed guard, and then 1 minute in somebody else's closed guard. And I held down one of the new guys. His name's Dan, and he's like 6'4", maybe he was like 250 at the time. And I held him down for the minute in side control, and he was like, "What the hell is going on here? How is this little guy holding me down?" And now 5 years later, he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's awesome. one of our guys. Yeah. Leading into that, that just reinforced that we need to change our teaching methodology. It has to be consistent, frequent training. That's the only way you're going to learn a motor skill.
Yeah, and the thing that
go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
The thing that I've seen recently it's a joke, but it's true. If you don't train in combatives and you carry a gun, you are merely a holster for someone else. Because that is, it's meant to be funny, but it's the truth. If you carry a gun and don't have the ability to control yourself and your containment with someone else at zero distance, it will be taken away from you. That's given, so these skills are not just, life-saving, but they're crucial. And it's something that, when I started shooting competitively, it's because I wanted to be more proficient with my carry pistol. And then I realized, okay, so now that I'm proficient with my carry pistol, I'm missing a giant block of this whole picture. And that's where I decided to start taking more training, but then all we were doing was learn to shoot faster or shoot on the move. And it's like, no, I still don't think we're there. So working into that jiu-jitsu thing, and then again, eventually working into this and introducing the weapon into the grappling is just huge. And I think it's, like you said, even if you do wrestling training or some some fighting training with some officers, are they introducing the weapon? Are they talking about weapon retention? Are they talking about weapon retrieval? That stuff, all part of that picture that really makes the whole rounded training. And I think there's like you said, your department is doing a great job in comparison to a lot, even around here, that do no physical training for hand to hand. I mean, they may do some, they may teach them how to block a punch or something, but they don't actually do any real hand-to-hand training. So kudos to you for pushing that up the ladder, man.
Right. Yeah. Hey, thanks. It's been a struggle, but hey, you got to do it.
Yeah. And Kato, I think one of the, just even hitting back on to, being stuck under another person, one of the things that was an epiphany to me even recently, I love John Danaher's systematic way of even just thinking about escaping. And I think that's something that I'm trying to, anybody that I'm helping out, it's like, hey, first, reduce your discomfort and even just attempt to get one frame in. You try those two things and you're going to be, obviously they're easier said than done, but just that thought of, okay, try to reduce your discomfort. Sometimes that can be, encouraging and, get somebody through that process. I wonder what you thought of that.
Yeah, 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about. And, you're talking about, a process of escaping, right? So, probably, I'm going to play here. I'm in law enforcement. We're all about acronyms, right? Just like the military, right? And so, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I came up with this acronym called FETAL, right? And, I was watching a video. You could pull it up on YouTube. It's the original taser list. So actually, maybe it was like 10 years ago. Anyways, the guy's literally like in a fetal position. He's got two cops laying on top of him. This guy is like singing. He's like chanting. And these two cops like go to drive stun him. And then this guy just gets up and runs away. And I had this epiphany right then and there. I was like, that's he's literally in a hip escape position on one side. And I go, he's in the fetal position. And people think because he's in the fetal position, it's okay because he's fetal. And I'm like, no. I go, so cops need to learn how to pin, right? And part of pinning is not letting people go fetal. And so the acronym is first escape tactic is active laying. And it's kind of a joke to a couple of different acronyms. A couple of different guys who like to use acronyms, and I just came up with one. I'm like, whatever. But when I'm teaching guys how to pin people, I go, we have to prevent people from actively laying and rolling into that fetal position. So, like for jiu-jitsu terms, like shrimping, right? I don't use shrimping for law enforcement and anybody I train. I just call it a hip escape. And I said, we have to prevent people from escaping their hips. And so we need to pin their hips or we need to pin their shoulders or, 3 of the 4 points. So 2 shoulders, 1 hip, 2 hips, 1 shoulder. Doesn't matter. And that prevents guys from going fetal. And if they go fetal, what's usually going to happen? They're going to roll their belly, they're going to build a base, and then they're going to run, right? So yeah, the whole fetal acronym thing, that was kind of a joke thing that I had come up with, but it really resonated with the guys I was teaching. They just understood like, okay, I can't let guys go fetal. And I said, well, this also works for you if you're trying to escape, right? If some big guy is not sitting on top of your chest, what do you need to do? Go fetal. Now, don't stay there. Get to that fetal position, start creating some space, and then work your way back to your feet, right? So it's kind of like it works both defensively and offensively.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. That's a easy way to think about it, and especially when you only got so much time with your officers. That's good. I like it.
Eric, as you were talking about that, and I thought about this earlier in the conversation. The other night, I was doing some rolling with another guy that was quite a bit bigger than me, and he got me. I believe it was just simply side control. And of course, I couldn't breathe, quote, couldn't breathe, right? But I remembered from my first ECQC when that guy had me and, just squished the breath out of me. And you told me,
college wrestler.
Yeah, you said, man, you just need to, get used to that. And the other night when that was occurring, I thought, okay, this is exactly what Eric told me about. And I just relaxed and just let myself be uncomfortable there. And Kato, I'm not even close to as experienced as Eric and you, but the jiu-jitsu journey is amazing. And it's a lot harder than people think, too. For me, it's amazing. That may be part of it, too, because, Eric used to teach me private Thai boxing lessons when he used to live here. I can work on a jab and a hook and a right cross, and I can just work on those techniques, but mentally there's just one move, right? But, for any specific jiu-jitsu technique, there's 20 freaking steps,
I try to get across, when I teach, I try to get across concepts, and obviously, the techniques reinforce the concepts, and, I try to be able to boil it down to the simplest terms, and fetal is one of those.
That's awesome.
Ideas.
I love it.
Right. And as far as getting used to being uncomfortable, I push. I don't do too much yoga anymore, but try yoga. People will say jiu-jitsu is yoga is putting yourself into difficult positions and trying to breathe, right? And jiu-jitsu is somebody else putting you into difficult positions and you're trying to breathe. So try to do your little yoga. That'll help with your breathing.
Oh, cool.
Well, guys, I think we're probably getting closer to the end of the show. What do y'all think?
Yeah, it's been good, man. It's been great to hang out and talk to you, Kato.
It's been great to hang out with you guys. I actually can't believe I'm actually doing this. I'm usually just listening to you guys, like just nodding my head. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, hey, I got to remember that. And then I'll take a screenshot. I'm like, oh, there was something important at 29 minutes and 30 seconds. And then I'll go back and I'll listen to it. And I'm like, what the hell was it? It was like a couple seconds either before or after. So yeah, this is awesome.
No.
Well, go ahead, Brian.
Awesome on you for choosing to get into training, because one of the things that the collective talks about, and we've talked with some of the ShivWorks staff about, is that we're losing trainers, and we need to dispense this knowledge to as many people as possible. Craig and the ShivWorks brand does everything that they can, and they, obviously it's a business. Obviously, there's pay for classes, but the biggest intent there is that the knowledge is shared and kept, as opposed to perishing and being lost with generations. Because that's, it took a long time for this to develop into what it is, for us to have this grappling with weapons included, and of course jiu-jitsu to really come here and be what it is, and be useful for self-defense as well. Because I'll throw the joke out there. When you were training Aikido, I would imagine that you may be attacked in some other way than a hand drag. It's possible, right? So. Well, it's good that we have other forms of training, no digs. I definitely don't want to insult anyone in our audience that practices that. It's an inside joke, but the intent is that we share this with as broad a spectrum as we can, and that's why we do the podcast, is so that we can reach out and try to help other people understand some of these concepts.
Yeah, you guys put out great content. Like I said, I've listened to every show more than once. And some people might be like, "Hey, you're nuts for doing that," and I don't believe so. I'll listen to an Audible book a couple times. I'll read it. I'll read an article twice. Part of that's just me. Maybe that's OCD. I don't know. But I want to make sure I squeeze as much knowledge out of everything that I'm doing or everything that I'm participating in, and I want to be able to squeeze that out, and then I want to be able to pass it on. So it's super important to me that I'm doing something every day. And, I remember sending out a text to a group of my coworkers and their fellow instructors. And one of the guys saying, how do you do all this? How do you keep up with all the stuff that you send out? Because I'll send out, an article, a video, a podcast, and then whatever book I'm reading and, anything else in between. And they're like, dude, I can't keep up. And I'm like, listen, you don't have to keep up. You have to just open it up. If it interests you, read it. If it doesn't interest you, move on. It's okay. I'm not expecting you to be like me. If you want the knowledge, you can obviously ask me, but I might not be the source. And I'm trying to give you the source. I'm trying to give you Craig's podcasts from you guys. Hey, I want you guys to listen to Craig. Take what you want from it. Discard everything else. And that goes from everything, even my video breakdown. So I will do a video breakdown to reinforce our current training and what we do. And I try to keep it to 3 bullet points because most people will read an email and be like, I can't read anything more than 3 bullet points. And then they watch the video. And that video just reinforces our training. And again,
Absolutely.
Setting that culture, that is, when I'm gone, my plan is to retire in January. When I'm gone, that's up to the new generation to keep up that job. And I've been mentoring a bunch of kids, and I think they're going to do a great job.
Cool. Good for you for that too. That's awesome. All right.
Well, we most certainly have appreciated your support, resending out our podcasts and supporting, what we do. It's like I said earlier, it's an honor to have you on the show. And like I said yesterday, we're going to start rotating a lot more of, the base of guests that we've had that we believe can help folks the most. And we absolutely want to have you back on. And then maybe in the near future, we need to set up some form of a hosting so we can train together in person. So that'd be awesome if you're interested in that.
Awesome. Yeah, I am. This will be the only podcast that I don't repost, just FYI.
Nice.
Is it your humility?
We'll post it for you, brother.
Oh yeah, we'll push it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, awesome to have you on, man.
Thanks again. It's great to meet you guys again. I'm honored to be here.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, we're honored that you're here, buddy. Thank you so much.
All right. Next time, guys.
Have a good one.
Good evening.
Good night, guys.
Hey, everybody. That was a great interview with Kato, wasn't it?
Man, awesome.
Oh, spectacular.
Yeah, great guy.
Very cool. Very cool to get to meet that guy a little more in depth and learn what he's about.
Yeah, super cool guy.
Definitely going to have him back on for sure.
Yes. Well, so let's go ahead and get into our accountability, which is a lot of fun to do this tonight because we're all in country together. And in a celebration of that, Eric, man, why don't you kick off the conversation?
Well, guys, yeah, man, it's great to be back, as I said at the beginning of the show, and how excited I am to be able to do some jiu-jitsu again and weapons-based grappling. Heck, in theater, we had jiu-jitsu classes going until the COVID crap hit, and so that got nixed, and so no jiu-jitsu for a while, so really great. I've got a buddy, Ryan, who is a brown belt at our gym, came to me right before I got back from deployment and said, hey, I'd like to work some pistol lessons with you. I'm wondering if you're interested in helping me out. And I said, well, hey, you can help me out with some jiu-jitsu. And so he and I have been doing a lot of weapons-based grappling, actually some pressure-based knife work too, kind of from EWO, from Craig Douglas's Edge Weapon Overview, and some stuff that I've learned and he's gotten from Paul Sharp too. So been working that and doing some straight up awesome jiu-jitsu training. I've learned so much in the last few sessions. Just had one tonight. I came in sweating as we started the recording, so that was an awesome time. Aaron, what about you in jiu-jitsu this week?
Well, again, I'm thankful for my gym that's open here. And as you guys remember, on the last handful of shows, I've been talking about prepping for my combatives test. And I've been doing that. I went to 2 sessions this week, and one was our regular technique class, and that was impartial to prep, and then went to the intermediate class for rolling and to really solidify some of the main techniques. I believe we worked on major mount techniques. Of course, I'm continuing to study. I'm studying. There's test videos on the. If people aren't aware that the Gracie system, they have a really cool Gracie University that you can go and study the techniques. I mean, it's just really well done by Huron and Hinter. So I've been watching a lot of their videos and prepping with those too. Just excellent material. So, Brian, sorry to bring it up to you. So you still no jits for you?
No gym, no jits. I am feeling much better though. My back injury is feeling primarily healed. So hopefully I'm gonna get in and do some of these sessions with Eric. That's the plan anyway. So at least I can do some private one-on-one, because our wonderful governmental system still does not feel it's appropriate for people to do any contact sports of any kind. So I will bow to the powers that be, and then we'll just go underground.
That's right. That's what we're doing. We got some underground training going on. So be it. And yeah, brother, I can't wait till you have a chance to come over. It's good stuff. So can't wait for that.
Nice.
So I know one thing. I know Brian, even with his injury, he's gotten around and done what he can, but he's still been getting after it at the gym, man. What's been going on over there?
Well, I got our gym is able to operate, the CrossFit gym. So there you go. Not the jiu-jitsu gym's closed, but the CrossFit gym is open. They're limiting us to 10 students in the class due to the square footage of the building. We got to stay within our little square and wear a mask if we go get weights. It's kind of, I get it. They're trying to play by the rules so they can be open, but I am getting in there on average 4 days a week, and I'm getting back to lifting some of the heavier weights that I used to lift and doing some more aggressive movements. So that was cool. So was in there this morning getting after it, and really happy to have done so. Going again tomorrow morning, so getting up before the enemy. Usually doing the 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. class before work, man. So that's very cool. Yeah. You've been getting the walks in the neighborhood there, Aaron? What are you doing?
I have.
You sitting in your chair? What are you doing?
I'm sitting in my chair. I've been off and on. So I started a schedule because, when this COVID stuff really hit, I was home working for a couple of months, but they gave me the option if I wanted to. Actually, they gave me the option to come home all the time, but I chose to do a schedule where I'm off at home one week and then back in the office another week. So I've been at home, and when I'm at home, I can be really disciplined about I'm going and doing some exercises throughout the day. So I'm back on my squats and my pull-ups.
Nice.
And then, I'm keeping the walks going up. I shot some hoops with my son last night. I'm staying active. Did some swimming this afternoon and made sure I got my heart rate up a bit there too. So not as heavy workout as you guys, but hey, I'm still getting some activity done.
Well, and Aaron, I have to admit, and it's kind of odd that, Brian had that back injury. I mean, the audience has heard me talk about, I had a horrendous back injury, over a year and a half ago. And I incidentally had a back tweak this last week. It was really odd. And I was, I've told Brian this. It's like, man, I started getting depressed. I'm like, man, am I going downhill again? But it was a minor tweak and just a muscle on the opposite side of my back. Wasn't the same injury. I think I was just overdoing it a little bit. My back was warning me. But I'm doing good. I've had 2 early morning workouts. Not lifting real heavy, but I still have been, getting after some good chin ups, pull ups, dips, squats, lightweight, and so I've still had some pretty good workouts. So I'm back on it. And
well, hey, Eric.
I rolled the night, no problem. I did regular sparring rounds with Ryan, so I feel good.
Well, I just wanted to interject. You and I were having a little bit of FaceTime, and I was looking around at that killer gym you got at home, man. I think a lot of people need to know here that Eric got a really cool home gym, man. I wish I had it.
Well, I'll have to put some pictures on the Instagrams and Facebook again. It's been a while since I've done that because it's changed a little bit since I put it up there. So, yeah, I'm telling you, I am super thankful for my gym, and it gets used. It gets used all the time. So cool. Thanks for that mention,
Nice.
Aaron.
Nice.
It's a sanctuary for me, frankly. It is.
Well, why don't I go in and talk about my shooting, and then I'm going to pass it on to you guys because I think you got something cool to talk about. So, long story short, I have been dry firing. I've been doing it almost every day, but I'm making sure I'm getting some reps in every day, the best I can. It's just I've kind of slipped a little bit, but the last couple of days I've ramped it up with that Ben Stoger book. Now, based on, of course, the fact that ammo is like gold these days, I've not done a lot of
same price.
Exactly. I've not done a lot of live fire, but I did make it to a IDPA match this week, and I can report my accountability here and my scores. I did get 11th overall, and I came in second in my division. The main thing is I'm not so concerned about where I place other than the fact that I can tell that I'm improving incrementally each match. This match, I really was able to I was able to slow my mind down and really feel what I needed to feel. And one of the main things was that I was present in each stage. I was way more aware of what was going on, my decision making, and was it, often fundamentals you can't think about them that much, and you shouldn't. But I felt myself, when something was going a little bit sideways, correcting my grip and my trigger control here and there. So it was a good time. So again, thankful to have those matches here in town. So
Very cool.
What about you guys?
Brian, I'll let you kind of hit it off with what we did this last week.
Well, I'm going to slip a little extra credit in there. I had an amazing week last week. I mean, I had set some wheels in motion, and Friday night, me and my flight instructor took a quick, 40-minute flight in my new plane.
Yeah.
And that was
awesome.
Man, I mean, it was epic.
Legit.
It was a memory forever. And it's just like, I want to share that because it's just a huge thing. And it's something that, there's a first time for everything. And that was the first time in my personal aircraft. So, when I'm licensed, I'll be taking you guys to matches and stuff. But, at the moment we'll stick with that. But that was Friday night. Saturday morning, I had to get up bright and early because Eric and I scheduled a 4-hour private with Gabe White. We were fortunate enough to find a hole in his schedule because as he mentioned, he's not doing a lot of that right now. But we were able to pick a date, and we're nearby. We're only about an hour and a half away. So he was able to come up, and we shot on my private range. And wow. Eye-opening stuff, man. I mean, this is about working the basics, but man, the way that he breaks it down.
I'm just saying, I'm jealous, mad, and that's just unfair.
It is a pretty amazing, some of the things we get to do sometimes, and I tell this story, I've told it multiple times before the Gabe White private, is I was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going back, I haven't live fired in a while, man, I need a tune up. I'm like, wait a second, I know Gabe White, he's producing monsters out there, like, I'm going to, holler at him and see if he could give us a private, and it worked out. And man, I learned so much. Just like you said, wow, man. Gabe, if you're listening to the show, man, what an incredible lesson. It's already paid dividends for me in my last live fire session. And, Brian, I'll kind of let you hit on some things that you learned, but I'll be honest with you. One of the biggest takeaways, and I didn't realize that it was going to be, and I won't describe it too thoroughly because we're talking, we're paying for intellectual property, but just his trigger drills where we're pressing the trigger under pressure, but 3 different variations of that. I'll tell you, I've been dry firing that drill this weekend. Man, it's paid huge. And I noticed the difference in my last live fire session. So, yeah, what about? Yeah. And there was multiple things we learned we can talk about. But what was one of the big things that stuck out to you, Brian?
Well, I've done lots of draw from holster. Plenty. I started doing most of it on strong side, outside the belt. Because that's sport. Mm-hmm. And the appendix stuff has been new to me in like the last probably 18 months. I've owned them. I've used them on occasion, but as far as like really pushing the ability to draw from cover and to do it proficiently and to work through it when there's an issue, which happened several times. I messed up my grip. I did not grasp it properly on the initial touch, and that all just starts to be like a cart coming off the wheels. It starts to fall apart, but you push through it and you fix it. But learning, having some pointers on stance and draw and position of equipment, those are probably the like cornerstone items. All the rest of it is stuff that, like the moving and shooting and the shooting fast and like some of the pace stuff that we did, all awesome. That I don't discount any of it. It was spectacular. But those little cornerstone things is where all of that comes from. And if you don't have your holster adjusted properly, if you don't grip your gun properly when you begin your draw, if you don't extend properly, and if you don't stand the right way, all the rest of it, you're just going to struggle. And you just become so much more efficient when you get those things down. So, I mean, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway for me. It was all good information, but I think that was where I really started to like go, okay, wait, yeah, stop doing the tactical turtle. Get your head up. Lean forward, but don't crouch. Those kinds of things.
Well, and if I can add to that, the draw portion that he cleaned up some misconceptions that I've had with my appendix draw that you might recall me asking a couple questions on that. And although I kind of had stumbled partially onto his method, I still wasn't quite clear on it. So that was really good. But back to your experience in the draw instruction portion, man, when we were going, on the clock, man, the audience should know, man, Brian kicked ass, man. I mean, just his time from, and this is all from concealment, his time went from just below 2 seconds to where at the end he was consistently from concealment, not from a open holster, 1.4. Somewhere just hovering down in there. I think you had like a 1.3 at one point, didn't you, Brian? And so, man, I was just real pumped about seeing that progress that you made.
On target, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. No, those were hits. No,
not
those
in the
were
dirt.
A-zone.
Yeah.
Those were A-zone hits.
Yeah.
But I would tell you the other thing that I got from it was when we were running the bill drills and how he gave us permission to miss. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And the reason he gave us permission to miss is because you cannot discover your mistakes until you mess up. If you're always going for perfection, you're going to have misses even when you're going for perfection. But he said, I want you to go push past your comfort zone. And we did the same thing on transitions on 3 targets. He's like, I don't care if you make some C's. He said, I don't care. I want you to push past your limit. And I can tell you that opened my mind. And you know, again, this is beating a dead horse. At one point, I had made masterclass in IDPA, but there were things that I did not know back then that I discovered this time that's going to push me back to that level, and I'll be able to sustain it from this instruction. As is awesome. So I suppose that's probably enough, even though we did a lot more. Just amazing time.
And we're looking to have him on as a guest, so we'll have more discussion about Gabe White in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys got anything else? Or do we want to move into the drill of the week? Or
I just want to just digress a little bit and say something about Brian and his flying. You know, we are definitely a tactical and martial arts focused show because we love it. We enjoy getting better at protecting ourselves and our families. But we really want to stress here that we are all about striving for excellence in lots of things. The classical liberal education concepts. We need to talk about that stuff more. But I just wanted to say, Brian, you're seeking excellence in your flying, and man, that's just always cool to hear about. So good job, man.
Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Aaron, because I was thinking the same exact thing. How funny we think alike, but you said it a lot better than I would have, so I'm glad you said it first. So, but yeah, that's awesome, Brian. Very cool.
Right on. Well, you got a drill for us, Eric?
I sure do, and this kind of came from an epiphany I had just this week. Number one, we don't have a lot of ammo. So the first part of this, now I want everybody, if they have the chance, to shoot the drill itself. But the first thing I want to emphasize is making sure that you're dry firing this drill at home before you go live fire, because, hey, if you can only run it through 3 times, which is kind of our standard when we do it ourselves, then that's only 9 rounds. And so what the drill is going to be, it's going to be 1 string of the 2019 FBI qual, and it's going to be the 15 yards piece. I'll probably add a link to the Rangemaster target because it has the FBI bottle target. So I'll put that in the show notes. Or this is also an alternate. You can use the C zone or like the -3 zone of an IDPA target and the head all together. It's roughly the same. It's a little bit larger, but it'll still do the same thing. But anyway, all it is there's a par time of 6 seconds from 15 yards from concealment, draw and fire 3 rounds. That's it. And what I discovered from shooting that drill, that was one of the first things that Brian and I shot together was the FBI qual. But that amount of time, 6 seconds, is honestly, it's enough time, but it's enough pressure that you have to, get those hits and get a good trigger press, great sight picture. And I shot it again at my last indoor range session. And after the Gabe White lesson, it paid dividends. And I think that if we can only shoot a few rounds, we might as well shoot at a little distance. So what do you guys think?
I like it.
Sounds good. I'll shoot it this weekend.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll shoot it again as well. And maybe Brian and I, we can get together and do it together. So
Yeah,
see about getting that, making that happen maybe.
absolutely. Well, another successful show, guys.
Yeah, fun show.
a lot of fun, guys.
show. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Glad
enjoyed
to have
it.
you home, Eric. Very
Thanks
cool.
a lot, guys.
Very cool to have
It's-
you back.
It's great to be home, and man, you and I have already got to do some awesome accountability and having an awesome time together, hanging out. So it's been really cool. Now I'm ready to go see my brother too.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, till next time.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Good night.